Hello everyone. There aren't any explicit like YouTube guides for Bama in patch 3.25, so I've decided to make my own. There's a very good one, but it's in Spanish, so I'm not many people can understand it outside of if you don't speak Spanish. And so I'm actually doing my version of it. Full disclosure, I'm not like a Path of Exile god. I don't know some stuff. For instance, when it comes to crafting, there are a bunch of stuff I still don't know. However, I've played Bama for 3 seasons now, and I always manage to complete my Atlas, my missions for it. As you can see, I have no mission left. I've killed Uberalder, I've killed a bunch of stuff, and I'm just level 2093 still. I still think that this is pretty much the best build in the game overall, unless you have like 400 divines to spend, and then there are of course some like extremely endgame builds that are better than it. But if you're operating on a budget, what you can do with this build by only spending like 9, 10, 20 divines is absolutely absurd. And so I want to make a guide of it and just do both things. I want to go over like the general, how the build functions, how are we playing, what are we doing, and then there will be a second part. I will have two separate timestamps if you already know what Bama is, where I will discuss more in depth what's changed in patch 2.25, especially because if you there was a lot of like doomerism when the patch notes dropped because they thought we were going to be nerfed, we were going to be shit. Well, we're not shit. I think we are stronger than last patch because the build is easier to play as we have lost one button to press. There's one button less, but we don't have less DPS. So it's less DPS and it's easier to play. So great, it's very fun. Okay, so let me go over extremely quickly with some slight gameplay about how it works, and then I will move into town to keep talking because we have this horrible specter here that never shuts up and keeps screaming like a monkey every 2 seconds, and it's very distracting. So to cut it extremely short, how does this build work? We summon clones of ourselves, and these clones they cast either prismatic arrow or bombardment. So like this, you can have two separate like one has to be a blink arrow and one has to be a mirror arrow, but you can switch the two. You can have which one you like. And so we are minion build. We run around, we summon our clones. As you can see, they have 1 second and something cooldown. It's extremely fast. We run around like a chicken and they kill everything inside while we do so. Okay, so let me move into town and start going into detail more. Okay, so let us start by taking a look at the tree and the most important nodes that we're taking, which will also help understand the build itself. And then I will discuss like individual choices and why we've made them and what changed since last patch, basically. So this is a very unnatural build. What I mean by that is that we're a minion build, so we want to stay in this quadrant. Basically, here we have all our masteries or our increases or our help for minions. However, we absolutely need to grab this. This halves the cooldown for both our main DPS abilities, and without this, the build doesn't work. So we start here at the starting witch, and then like a swallow or another bird, we do a big migration. We go all the way down to all these nodes. All of this is bad for us basically, but we cannot we cannot afford to lose this. This is something that is also absolutely mandatory. And this is also why I say that this build is kind of unintended, right? Because this is like both the gems are very clearly intended for like a bow build where you scale your bow damage to the max and then you summon the clones and the clones inherit the bow damage. They're not really intended as a minion build, to be fair. However, they are a minion build, and so we get to do stupid things because we can basically they've allowed us to scale in both direction. We scale both with minion and both with the intended like bow and whatever thingy. And not only that, but sometimes we get double dip. For instance, if you take a look at this spiritual command, increases and reduction to minion attack speed also affect you. Now, why this is great is because the minion we summon are clones ourselves. So I think the way it works is that we summon them, they get our stats, and then they also get the increase to minions. So basically, we get to double dip on it. So everything else on the tree is pretty self-explanatory, I think. Here we're getting a crit chance, a crit multiplier, reservation in order to have our auras active, and everything else, it's life, it's minion damage, more life here, life evasion, blah 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 blah. There is nothing like there's no weird attack going on basically, and that's like the grand scheme of things. Uh, when it comes to our mastery, there's a couple of options. Where it is? Where is it? uh, this and this are mandatory. So we get here increased damage, elemental resistances. This is greatly helpful to let us cap our resistances with ease. And also, auras from your skills grant 3% increased attack and cast speed to you and allies. We have 5 auras total, maybe 6, I think. So that's a massive attack and cast speed. And since it scales with both us and allies, we also get the double dipping. And then here we have just a big damage upgrade. Doesn't really matter. What really matters is this. Like, I want to focus a tiny bit on this. This is incredible. It's 1% of damage dealt by your minion is leached to you as life. Now, if you think about build that leeches, they always have like 3, 4, maybe sometimes even 5% of damage that leech does life. However, what you have to consider is that usually they're like melee skills, so you're standing right there in front of everything. Everything is constantly hitting you, and so basically, like your leech has to be higher than the amount of damage you're taking in order to for it to function. We're not only are we ranged, but we have a massive range, and we don't have to stop the DPS. We're constantly running around, and our DPS doesn't stop when we run around. So while we're dodging attacks, the minion keep attacking and they keep healing us. And man, this is like an unbelievable amount of healing. Like you will get your life full in I don't know 1.5 seconds maybe, and they will get shorter and shorter the more you upgrade your DPS. And then you have a couple of options. You can either take the micromanaging side of it and ignore this, and take this, which gives you 10% more damage if there's a corpse nearby. This is for like the one shot setups, and or you can go like the usual route and get this. This is also like really good because you also get double dipping gear. You might think that it will be useless to have offering skills affect you, but since you're summoning clones of yourself, you're basically summoning clones that are buffed by the offering, and then they get buffed by the offering again. So like once again you're kind of double dipping and you're using the fact that the interaction is bugged. Here we have the allocated um, node from our amulet, which lets us summon another specter. So I'm sure that while I was talking, your eyes might have fallen here. This is the magic number, and I mean, I don't know what to say, man. Insert maniacal laughter. Like this is a 25, maybe 30 maximum divine budget, and this is the damage it does. Like you will see clickbait guides on YouTube saying, "Oh my God, incredible build, 50 million damage." Like this is, we spit on our hands and as a budget, and we do more damage than that. Like this is what I once read a comment on a video that said that Bama might sneeze and accidentally find themselves with 10 million damage, and my God, it is absolutely true. Like look at this. This is crazy. Now I want to talk about this number a bit because some of you might be wondering like, okay, but is this real? Is it like a perfect scenario, whatever situation that never happens? And you would be kind of right. What I mean by that is that this is our post post ramping damage. We have a ramp phase where we have to summon six clones, and we also have to stack shock on the enemy. Um, I would say that in general, against the boss, this is like 4 seconds. After 4 seconds, this is your full DPS and it doesn't dip lower than this. This is constant. And this is especially on bosses because it's also reliant on having of being like in the range of all your specters and all your buffs or whatever, which in boss arenas will be pretty much all the time. It will be less so in mapping, of course. And also, I should mention, this is pure single target DPS. This is not AoE DPS. The prismatic clones, which are more than 50% of it, they are pure single target. They do no OE at all. The entire OE is done by our bombarding clones. But I mean, once again, like usually you spend 10 divines, 15, 20 divines, and you get 5 million DPS if you're lucky. Like here, where we have like ungodly amounts, and this can be scaled to even crazier numbers. Um, if you take a look here, here I have my specters and what my animate guardian is wearing. There's a couple of things. This is the biggest upgrade that you can get pretty much ever. This is 50% to crit multiplier. This is almost 50% damage and the culling strike. Um, if you're running the cheap setup on your animate guardian, this culling strike doesn't work because you will use groove cool as a chest, and groove cool says that the wearer cannot do damage. So since he cannot do damage, he cannot apply culling strike. So remember to tick it off your like damage calculation if you have it. Um, and yeah, and these are our specters. So we got Spirit of Fortune. This gives us a massive level 23 Wrath for free. You get lucky with your hits, which is great because we're doing full lightning damage, and lightning damage benefits greatly from lucky hits, and then added a lot of other lightning damage. Now the Warlord, which is the guy that never shuts up, it gives endurance charges. It gives us regeneration, which is very good. And then we have the Blasphemer, which adds another like a bunch of lightning damage. We will have like in the perfect version of this build, there's a fourth Spectre which adds another like 30% more lightning damage or something. Like it's another crazy amount. So like just by adding another Spectre, we will be going to almost 100 million. Like once again, like this is a I cannot stress enough that this is like a unbelievable damage, right? So I think these are the basics. Um, I'm now going to go through a bunch of more specific things, and we will talk about what has changed since patch 3.24. So we've lost a couple of things. We've got one nerf that we have to work around, and well, actually two nerfs. So they nerfed Adorned, and they nerfed the prismatic clones. Uh, this gem Blink Arrow Prismatic Clones used to have an AoE tag, which meant that we could use a concentrated support and it would work on both our gems. It doesn't say so, but this still has the AoE tag, while this one doesn't. So um, yeah, you can no longer run concentrated effect, and instead, and also Adorn got nerfed. And we were using Adorn with so our standard build, let's say the cheapest and most effective one was using Doom Fletcher. I will have it on screen. Doom Fletcher was a bow that gave you you will scale physical damage, and then that will be converted into damage of every element. And so you will doing tri-elemental scaling using the Adorn to buff your physical damage. The Adorn has been gutted, it does 50% less. And also you can no longer run concentrated effect. So how do we fix this? We go pure lightning. We say fuck you to Doomflash, and we run a random bow and quiver with like general good stats, and we go full lightning. Since we're going full lightning, we also get to run as a support volatility, because this increases the maximum, like the upper roll of an attack, and decreases the lower roll. Since lighting is so polarized, we don't lose nothing basically on the lower roll, and we get a massive bonus on the upper roll. So in the end, GGG, try as it may, until they got the actual like gem damage in itself, we will always find a way, right? There are so many different ways that this can be built, so it's very hard to nerf them all, basically. So, what are we doing now? Um, these are new, these two circles here, and you can see this is a combat focus cobalt gem jewel and a combat focus crimson jewel. Now, these are absolutely shit jewels. They do nothing useful. The only thing they do is they allows us to function, basically, because this prohibits prismatic arrow from picking fire and this from picking cold, which means that they only get to pick lightning, and we have like no other damage other than lightning, right? So when you have both of these two equipped, you suddenly start doing a bunch of damage because your prismatic arrows are forced to use our damage, our main damage source, basically. So this is a necessity pick, basically. We don't like running this. They offer very little, but they're like a necessity, basically. But it's not that bad, right? Because since it's so much easier to scale lightning, there are so many like source of exposure and mental damage, resistance reduction, whatever. Like we are glad to sacrifice for points, and it's also way cheaper because these jewels are worth nothing. Now here we have another jewel. This is the Green Nightmare. This used to be a nice DPS upgrade last patch because we will do a bunch of cold damage, of course, with Doomfletch, and that cold damage became extra chaos. Too bad we lose it. Now this gives zero damage. However, it still gives us a bunch of spell suppression, which is what we care about. We are currently sitting, I think, at 84%. Right. And by the time we are done, this will be 100%. We have no other interesting jewel here. We are running here one big cluster, and this is like one of the beauty about this build. Why it's so cheap is because this jewel sucks. It has nothing useful. It's just got minion attack and cast speed and the increased effect. Like if you take out the increased effect, or if you take like a smaller percentage, you get this for 50 chaos. I think. Like I paid this one 4 divines, but because it is a very good roll, like it gives us armor, it gives us a strength, which now then I sacrifice in order to put on more tattoos that increase armor. So this is kind of like I wouldn't say perfectly optimized, but it is a pretty good like end game jewel. um, you will see I will have a POB in the description with like the way more expensive version of the build, um, and that will have I think 10 passive skills instead of 12. It totally doesn't matter how many there are if there are at least 10, because you know like these two more, it doesn't matter, we simply go the other way around, and we don't have to take them, basically. And you will notice that I currently have an empty slot here with no jewel inside. This last patch used to be Perandus. I will have it on screen. It was a 3.24 exclusive unique that gave us a bunch of armor. Now, I have no idea. I mean, it's not that I have no idea. I'm still figuring out like what are we doing about that, because of course we've lost it. My solution has been this. I've since we're running 4 hours, I figured like I mean there must be, I don't know, some decent watcher's eye that we can put on. Um, this watcher's eye in particular fucking success, but whatever. Like you will see the one in the end game version of the build that I've put in that gives a crit multiplier when affected by precision, and armor reduction when affected by determination, I think. And I think that those together should pretty much gives us both the same amount of resistance that Perandus gave, but also like gives us more life, more mana, which allows us to have precision at a higher level, and also like the increased damage. This you will see no increase here because it's not the rough. We are affected by rough, but it's not an aura we do. It's something that's granted by one of our specters, so I don't think it's calculating it properly. Here you see we get rough from here. But as I said, like this is the only part of the build that I'm not totally sure about. Other jewels could be possible. Like there's a bunch of stuff that could be set here. Maybe even a timeless to add some bonuses to all of this, this, whatever. Yeah. So I think that's that really. These are all the changes from 3.24. As I said, we get rid of the uniques and we scale damage this way by scaling light and damage. And yeah, so I think I will do a very quick like pro and con of the build. So I will see you in a bit. Let's now go over the pros and cons to this build. So when it comes to the pro, the main one, as I said before, is damage. Like, I don't think there's a single other build in the game that outputs the same amount of damage for the same budget. And I mean, this cannot be understated. Like, this is one massive thing. There's also speed and wave clear. Like the bombarding clone, especially, like they shoot all the way on the other side of the screen and they cover a massive area. And you're also very mobile because your main DPS skill is also blink, so you're constantly blinking around and jumping and blinking and jumping. So you're safe, you're fast. There's no content that you cannot do. This build is, I think, the best Sanctum runner build also because unlike X plus Mine, for instance, you don't have to stand still to shoot at enemies, so you can DPS while dodging. You can do Breach, you can do Sanctum, you can do Delirium, you can do Expedition, Heist, whatever like your mind can imagine, you can absolutely do it. He has insane bossing damage, so yeah, it's a great all-rounder. Now, this is also not free of like defects. The two main ones is that, first of all, you're a minion build. And being a minion build means that you have to undergo like the punishment of having Bob, which is, you know, the Udated Guardian, this guy here with the axe. As people, you might, if you're not like new to Path of Exile, you very much already know that every piece of gear that you see on Bob at the moment, you actually have to buy yourself. And if he dies, it's all gone. Kaboom, they disappear. Now, full disclosure, he died on me once, you know, this time, but he was wearing a gear similar to this, so I lost basically 7 divines worth of gear, and I punched a hole in the wall. So that's not very good. I died while I was doing a tier 17, but I still have no idea why, because like all the time he was perfectly full health, like always, and then he suddenly randomly died. I still have no idea, but I mean, if you play long enough, it will happen, and every time it happens, you know, it's like 6.5 or 7 divines down the drain. Now, granted, you could also run the cheaper gear setup, and then you don't care if he dies. That's like 50 chaos in total, I think, putting it all together. However, it's also significantly less damage. Spectres also, this used to be better last season because we didn't have Affliction League Spectres. And so they were resummonable, so you didn't care if they die because you could summon them back. These are from a Fiction League. They have to be bought, and if they die, you're shit out of luck. You have to buy them again. Now, granted that they're all cheap except the Warlord, which is like 1 divine, and they have never died on me. The only guy that ever died is the Totem, the Spirit of Fortune, because he does a massive like lightning AoE. So if you have like elemental damage reflect on enough enemies, he can one-shot himself. But like for instance, Bob cannot kill himself to physical damage reflection because he does pretty much 0 damage, so he doesn't hit himself hard enough basically to kill himself. The only guy that cannot kills himself through elemental reflection is the Totem. However, your clones also like kill themselves instantly to elemental damage reflection, so you're just not running elemental damage reflection on maps. So yeah, this is the first main downside: spirits and animate guardian management. There's also another like massive downside, which is this one. Fresh meat support, this is your main damage when it comes to gems. As you can see, it's like a massive amount of damage because it's both a flat crit chance, so this is the base crit chance that then gets multiplied by increases to crit chance, and it's also 69, very nice, critical strike multiplier. This is a buff that lasts 4.28 seconds. So just 4 seconds. Our clones, they last an eternity. They last 42 seconds. However, the buff lasts only 4. You know, so this means that if you want to have all 6 of our clones buffed at the same time, we are never stopping casting. Like we never stop. We always keep summoning. You summon, you summon, you summon. You can see my icons in the bottom. Like it's called spinning plates basically because you never stop spinning there. And so this is very APM intensive, and it's not the only thing that you do. You're also constantly buffing yourself with Spirit Offering, because this is also another massive damage increase. As you can see, 40% crit multiplier. And you're also casting Arcanist Brand on bosses and rare enemies if you can. And this is because this procs both Assassin's Mark, which is another big crit multi, and Conductivity, which is minus 37% lightning resistance. So this is 40% more damage basically. So this means that your regular gameplay loop is you get 8 seconds of buff, you spam your minions, you spam your minions, you spam your minions, you spam your minions, you attach brands if you see, and look, you spam your minions, and the buff is almost gone. By now, it lasts a bit longer because I have, now it's gone, and now you have to buff yourself, and you go back. So, as you can see, like this is definitely not like a Cyclone where you hold the right click and you're happy and everything dies. No. This is very APM intensive, so you kind of have to be able to do it and want to do it. Now, I personally come from StarCraft 2, so I have no problem pressing a bunch of buttons, but you know, this might not be for everybody, and if it's not, that's perfectly fine, it's understandable, except it's not, you're weak and you don't have the Mandate of Heaven. Now, lastly, there's one little last thing that I want to mention. Like the super endgame version of this gets you to 250,000 of effective HP, so it gets very tanky. However, this is not face tank tanky. You're still reliant on dodging and then getting healed back by your minions. So yeah, it is not to turn your brain off and run into every single AoE, every single damage, and you know just be fine regardless. So yeah, these are the pros and the cons. Of course, I think that the pros outweigh the con massively, and also, like if I can say, if you think that the button management is very bad, you should also realize that last patch we had one more button because we were also constantly reactivating haste every 8 seconds, like Spirit Offering for Divine Blessing. Now that's gone. We get haste permanently up, so like last season, I had to constantly switch to my other bar of hotkeys to keep reactivating haste. While this season is easy gaming, easy play. You always stay with your normal bottom. You have everything at your disposal, whatever. So yeah, this is everything. And now I will see you again one last time for a very brief gameplay demonstration. So we're doing a shipper here. And this is very this is kind of a basic boss, of course, too, but like I don't think there's much point like if you're an experienced player, like you don't really need like a gameplay showcase for it, and if you're new, I don't think there's much point in showing you like the massive super endgame boss, whatever. Here, I'm sorry, I'm just checking up that everything is recording correctly, and we go in. So you will see kind of here mostly our ramp up time, the way we constantly replay, we have to place stuff, whatever, how we move around, and off we go. Blink, 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 blink. We find the first portal, we go in. This is the annoying one where you have to, I don't know, wait for all the spiders to fall down, and if you see my frames dropping, my computer, as I said, doesn't really like me recording this game. Polish coders, what can you do? Blah blah blah, you kill the spiders. You can see like visual clarity is not great also. Maybe I should have mentioned that in the negatives of the build, but there's a lot of shit on the screen that the minions constantly produce, especially the bombardment ones are, you know, you get your screen covered in arrows, and I'm jumping around. As you can see, I'm refreshing my buffs. I do it even when it's unnecessary, because by now this build has corrupted my mind. I think about spearing offerings when I'm with girls. I think about spearing offerings at funerals. Like I have to refresh my spirit offerings. Spirit offerings is life. And where did the boss HP go? I don't know. It disappeared. It must be a bug. It responds and his life is gone in an instant. And this is because we've had time to ramp here, right? So I've resummoned all my minions a bunch, so they all have their buffs active. I grab a useless unique. I don't know why I do it. I have a problem with it. Another portal. I don't have much to tell you here, but I also didn't want like the commentary to be silent. I never learned how to do this mechanic. The way to do mechanic is to have enough DPS, and of course I drop a Mage Blood there, as you can see. Ignore what the actual item icon says. We go to the last portal. Oh man, this is probably the worst like pinnacle boss or whatever, because it takes a bunch of time. Here I do a bad ramp, which is why it takes like a second more than it should. And now I kind of want you to pay attention. Uh, the way his life bar moves, you will see it will start to go down quite slowly, and then it will start accelerating like crazy. And when it starts accelerating a lot, that's the actual like DPS that we do. Like you can see it here, right? Uh, so if this boss had like 10 times the HP, it would have lasted maybe half a second more, right? Because the way when it was going down super fast, that is our actual fully scaled DPS. Maybe we're missing still a couple of stacks of shock or whatever. A bit of lag spike there. I mean, not a lag spike, a frame drop. Still thinking of dead relatives, and now I can remember to reapply my buff. So as you can see, like I even dropped the buff here. It didn't matter much because we weren't fighting. And also I should mention one thing: the helmet we're running, um, it has one line where it automatically consumes corpses around you every couple of seconds. Um, this is like good as an affix because it also heals you for pretty much your entire life bar every time it does, as we don't have much health overall. Um, but it is massively annoying because, of course, if the corpse gets consumed, you can't use them to reapply your buff. So that's something you have to be aware. Like after a while, you get used to it. You basically memorize the timing where when you're transitioning into a new zone, it will automatically use its thingy, and then you start basically timing your consumption of corpses in order not to be in conflict with it. Now here we dodge balls, which is different from what I usually do in real life, and yeah, we keep fighting. Also, there's a small trick you can do. You can summon your corpses on the opposite side of the screen, and then the range won't be enough for your helmet to steal the corpses from you. And also for some reason, when you do that, the minions run there. So this is a way you can kind of micromanage your animate guardian if they're sitting in shit. And then we get brought to Brazil once again. We have to run the gauntlet. So yeah, there is a like Previ, which is the main Bama guy, dropped his version of the build for this patch, and it doesn't use this helmet. Instead, it goes, I think, blood magic for in order to be able to cast his spells. Um, I I liked it a lot, and now I get the dead end because I suck. I like that a lot. It is more expensive, right? Because that helmet is quite cheap. Um, I'm not sure that it is better overall, but it is definitely less annoying. Like the fact that the helmet fucking steals your corpses from you. You know, in Italy we've had Mike Bongiorno, and when he died, they stole his dead body. And your helmet is like that. You know, you can never let your guard down. You have to constantly think about what it might do to you in your sleep. But yeah, sorry, I'm just telling random bullshit because there's not much I don't think to see here. We killed that guy. And now you will see there is one very interesting thing about this fight, and that if you don't know, the Shaper, well, first of all, he never shuts up. He likes to talk. Maybe he's like a grandparent to the Spectre, because they both never shut up. And then there's one very interesting mechanic that he does. Maybe you might have seen it before. Well, this is the boss. Very interesting. There's this yellow laser, and if you don't get out of it, apparently you die. That's an interesting thing I didn't know about, but you know, you learn new things every day. But like joking aside, I think this is a good showcase that we're not a face tanker build, especially at this point. Like when you get 250k effective HP, you can probably tank that. But yeah, and of course, like it was gonna be dead in like 0.001 second more, so that's a typical PoE death. Fuck you, you're level 93, you just lost 2 hours of progress. But anyway, as you can see, like this is a boss that's absolutely shit for us because it constantly phases and still we melt it in second.